Thanks very much, Orla. It's a particular honour to contribute as Taoiseach to this year's Dáil statements marking Europe Day. It's a timely opportunity to reflect on our EU membership and on the European Union's role in the world. Ireland's EU membership over more than 5 decades has brought so many benefits. It offers freedom for our citizens to live, to work or to study across Europe. It provides access for our businesses and farmers to the single market. It has extended higher social, environmental and consumer standards for our citizens. As a small country, we have also contributed positively to the development of our common home, and Ireland has played and continues to play a constructive role on the shared issues of importance for people here in Ireland and for citizens right across Europe. This House will be aware that 2024 is an important election year when billions of people across the globe will be heading to the polls. The European Parliament elections being held across Europe's 27 member states next month will be the 10th since the first such direct elections in 1979. It represents our collective commitment to the vindication of democracy and democratic values when this has arguably never been more important. Europe is facing a profound moment in its history. War in Ukraine has made us all reflect on the dangers and the fragility of the world in which we live. A large-scale war on our doorstep is something that many of us thought we would never see in our lifetimes. As Jean Monnet wrote, Europe will be forged in crisis and will be the sum of the solutions adopted for those crises. The European Union's effectiveness and resilience has been tested through the many crises of recent years. But the EU has acted collectively and decisively in supporting Ukraine and in responding to the energy and inflationary shocks. In the face of the COVID pandemic, we jointly procured vaccines and life-saving equipment to the benefit of all of our citizens. The EU played an effective global leadership role on climate action, without which we cannot protect our planet. We all now face the challenge of migration, and we need to work together to better manage and coordinate migration policy at a European Union level. We cannot take our union for granted. It must be nurtured, it must be protected, and it must evolve and renew in the face of new challenges. The European Union has come a long way since a small group of countries, weary from years of war, committed to peace and prosperity by joining together in a shared community. Ireland was part of the first wave of EU enlargement, joining 12 years after we first applied. Last week in Farmley House, I had the honour of marking the 20th anniversary of the EU's single biggest enlargement, the Day of Welcomes, when 10 countries became member states during the Irish presidency of the EU Council on the 1st of May 2004. We are proud of the role that we played then, and we are keen to continue to be champions for EU enlargement. As it has proved for all member states, EU membership transformed our economy and our society. There's no doubt in my mind that every European country deserves the same opportunity, providing, of course, they meet the necessary criteria. I welcome the steps we have taken in the past 2 years to put Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia on an EU path, and to advance the candidacies of Albania, North Macedonia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. This is a positive momentum which I hope will continue to gather pace. Recent events in Georgia are of concern. As an EU candidate, Georgia is expected to adhere to the principles of democracy, the rule of law and human rights. The people of Georgia are demonstrating their commitment to democracy, to our shared values and to Georgia's path towards the European Union. I'm convinced that further enlargement of the EU is a vital tool to ensure security both in the EU and in the wider world. For the good of our Union and for the good of new member states, EU accession is an exacting process. Candidate countries must show evidence that they're ready to resume the rigours of EU membership, and current member states have an obligation to support them in implementing reforms. Ireland will soon open new embassies, further underlining our belief in the power of enlargement and the role we must play in supporting it. I've no doubt the current batch of candidate countries will ultimately strengthen our Union, and I look forward to welcoming them to our European Union family. Ireland is a strong advocate for Ukraine's EU perspective. Ukraine's future is in Europe. Progressing work on EU accession sends an important signal of hope for a brighter future to the Ukrainian people. EU membership is also the best way to guarantee Ukraine's future security. As we speak today, the situation on the ground in Ukraine is of grave concern. Russia is escalating its military aggression, attacking cities and civilian infrastructure, and there's an urgent need to provide Ukraine with the support it needs. I spoke with President Zelensky in my first full day in office to convey to him the message that this government and this country stands with Ukraine and that we're fully committed to ensuring Ukraine's sovereignty and independence are upheld. The brave people of Ukraine are not only defending their own country, but they are defending shared values of democracy, of human rights, the rule of law, values that are crucial to Europe and Ireland's future. It is therefore right that the European Council continues to make clear that the EU will stand with Ukraine for however long it takes. But the EU's support is not just words. Since February 2022, the European Union has provided unprecedented political, financial, humanitarian, military and diplomatic assistance. At April's special meeting of the European Council, leaders emphasised the need to provide air defence to Ukraine and to speed up delivery of assistance. The provision of humanitarian and civil protection assistance, such as generators and power transformers, will also be intensified. Ireland strongly supported agreement in February on a €50 billion Ukraine facility, which puts EU financial assistance for Ukraine on a more sustainable and predictable basis. Ireland and the EU will continue to advocate for President Zelensky's 10-point peace formula, which seeks a just and lasting peace based on the principles of the UN Charter and respects the Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I look forward to working with our partners across the world to advance this peace plan ahead of the high-level peace conference to be held in Switzerland on the 15th and 16th of June. When we consider the devastating conflict in the Middle East and the truly dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, it is clear that this has tested the European Union and unity. Consensus has been much more challenging to find among EU member states. States have differing perspectives, many of which may be linked to historical experiences. The lack of consensus has unfortunately undermined the EU's credibility internationally, and we need to be clear about that as we urge others around the world, particularly in the global south, to support Ukraine. Ireland has been working hard within the Union to find consensus, and it's very welcome that at April's meeting of the European Council, EU leaders called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. I have many times condemned the atrocity Hamas committed on the 7th of October, and I do so again. We also condemned Iran's attack on Israel and agreed to impose further sanctions on Iran. I continue to call on all parties to show maximum restraint. Any further escalation will have catastrophic consequences for millions of civilians. That includes in Gaza. I call again on the Israeli government not to mount a military operation in Rafah. The humanitarian impact would be catastrophic and would raise serious escalation of an already highly volatile situation. There must be an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, and a massive and sustained surge in humanitarian aid into Gaza. Israel must immediately facilitate full, rapid, safe and unhindered humanitarian access into and throughout the Gaza Strip, in particular by road. This is clearly Israel's responsibility under international human law. It's our view that the International Court of Justice has effectively ordered Israel to assist in the distribution of aid. The ICJ's orders are binding, and we call on Israel to implement them. The European Union has also been very clear that a political process based on a two-state solution is the only way to deliver a just and lasting peace, with the State of Israel living in security and peace with the State of Palestine. It's the government's view that the recognition of Palestine can be an important lever in efforts to revive a peace process. Recognition should be done in a way that can have the most positive impact on the situation on the ground, and our assessment is that that time is coming much closer. A number of countries recognising a Palestinian state at the same time will give weight to that decision. The government is coordinating our efforts towards recognition of a Palestinian state with like-minded countries, including Spain. I discussed this again with the Spanish Prime Minister on Monday, and we've agreed to remain in close contact. And I do think that can be a really important moment for a number of countries in the European Union to speak with one voice. I do think we should also look at what we can do in terms of the single market and competitiveness, because last year marked the 30th anniversary of the single market, which in so many ways opened the door to Ireland's economic success. Now, Corda, there must be an opportunity to continue to see how we can further deepen the single market. At the European Council meeting in April, I advocated strongly for tangible actions that can support deeper capital markets in the short time, while cautioning against the over-concentration of EU capital markets in a small number of large financial centres. Today we recall the strength of Europe's foundation, its enormous potential for positive influence in global affairs, our steadfast commitment to its democratic ideal. Ireland is proud to be part of the European Union. It's built on a strong foundation of shared values of common purpose rooted in freedom, democracy, human rights and the rule of law, and today we celebrate that.